Lunch table rules. Sharing food builds trust in the class. It was a bright Monday morning when a new rule was written on the whiteboard in the classroom. The teacher, Miss Clara, stood beside it and smiled at her students. The rule said, lunch table rules, be kind, share food, and respect others. The students looked at each other with curious eyes. Some nodded, and some looked confused. At the back of the room sat Amir, a quiet boy who had joined the class only 2 weeks ago. He was from another country, and his English was still simple. Every day at lunch, Amir sat alone at the last table. He opened his small lunchbox and ate quietly. Inside his box were rice, beans, and sometimes a small piece of flatbread that his mother cooked at home. The smell was warm and soft, but it was different from what the other children ate. The other students usually brought sandwiches, chips, or fruit. They laughed, talked loudly, and sometimes traded snacks. Amir wanted to join them, but he didn't know what to say. He was shy, and he didn't want anyone to laugh at his food. So he stayed at his corner table, watching and listening. One day, while Miss Clara was walking around during lunch, she noticed Amir sitting alone again. She smiled gently and said, "Amir, why don't you sit with the others today? Maybe they will like your food." Amir looked nervous and said quietly, "Maybe they don't like rice." Miss Clara shook her head kindly and said, "You never know until you share." So that day, Amir took his lunchbox and slowly walked to the middle table, where 3 students, Lily, Ben, and Sarah, were eating together. They looked up when he came closer. Amir smiled softly and asked, "Can I sit here?" Lily nodded and said, "Sure, come sit." Amir sat down, feeling a bit scared but happy. For a moment, everyone ate quietly. Then Ben looked at Amir's lunchbox and asked, "What's that?" "It smells good." Amir smiled a little wider and said, "It's rice with beans. My mom makes it." Sarah leaned closer and said, "Can I try some?" Amir blinked with surprise. No one had ever asked to taste his food before. He nodded quickly and offered her a small spoonful. Sarah tasted it and smiled. "Wow, it's really good." "It's different but nice." Ben laughed and said, "Let me try too." Soon, everyone at the table was taking small bites, and Amir was laughing for the first time. Then Lily offered him part of her sandwich. "You can try mine too," she said. Amir took a bite and smiled. "It's good. It's soft and sweet." The children laughed together, and soon they started to talk about food from different places. Lily liked spaghetti, Ben loved burgers, and Sarah said her grandmother made the best soup in the world. Amir told them about the food from his country, about how his family cooked together on weekends, and how the smell filled their small kitchen. The other children listened with big eyes. From that day, things began to change. Every lunch, more students came to Amir's table. They all started to bring a little extra food to share. Sometimes Amir brought samosas or sweet bread, and sometimes his friends brought cookies or fruit. The table became a place full of colors, smells, and laughter. Even Miss Clara noticed the difference. She smiled one afternoon as she watched her students talking and sharing happily. She said, "I see you have learned the true lunch table rule: sharing makes friends." The class laughed and nodded but one day, something small happened that tested their new friendship. Ben forgot his lunch at home. When he opened his bag and saw it was empty, he looked sad. Amir noticed and asked, "What's wrong?" Ben said, "I forgot my lunch today." "I'll just wait until the break is over." Without thinking twice, Amir opened his box and said, "You can eat with me. There's enough for 2. Ben smiled shyly. "Are you sure?" Amir nodded and said, "Of course." Friends share. They both ate together, and soon Sarah and Lily gave him some fruit and chips too. The whole table worked together to make sure no one was left hungry. That day, everyone felt something special. They felt like a real team. When the lunch bell rang and it was time to go back to class, Miss Clara stopped them at the door. She said, "I saw what you did today. You didn't just share food, you shared kindness." And kindness builds trust. The students smiled proudly. From then on, the lunch table rules were not just words on the board. They became part of everyone's heart. The classroom became warmer and friendlier. No one sat alone anymore, and every day was full of happy voices. Amir, who once sat quietly at the corner, now sat in the middle of the group, laughing and talking in English. He was still learning, but he was not afraid anymore. His friends helped him with new words, and he helped them learn about new foods. Together, they built a small world of trust, one lunch at a time. And every time someone asked Miss Clara what made her class so happy, she simply said, "It's because they learned to share not just their food, but their hearts."